I'm Marie, the host of Vinyl City Broadcasting, your transit express to rock and roll trivia. Today, our special guest is none other than the godfather of the twist, Mr. Joey D of the Starliters. I know, didn't you feel like getting up and dancing when you heard the peppermint twist playing in the background? We will be interviewing him momentarily. But let me give you a quick synopsis of Joey and the group. He'll fill you in on everything else that's going on in his life, both past and present. Joey D put the Peppermint Lounge on the map in the late 50s and 60s. Maybe some of you frequented the club back then. It was a popular discotheque located at 128th West 45th Street in New York City. It was the launch pad for the global twist craze in the early 60s, and there are claims that it was where go-go dancing originated. The house band at that time was Joey D and the Starlighters. Joey D wrote Peppermint Twist along with producer Henry Glover as a tribute to the lounge, and the song scored #1 on the US charts in early 1962. It sold over 1 million copies and was awarded a gold disc. Joey is a master showman whose other hits included Shout, Hot Pastrami Mashed Potatoes, What Kind of Love Is This, and many others. There's so much more about Joey D and the lounge and the many celebrities and entertainers that passed through those revolving doors. Who were they? Joey D will tell us in the interview today. So let's twist on over to the Zoom room, to our studio, and start the interview with the godfather of the twist himself.
All right.
Well, I'm here today in our Zoom room with Mr. Joey D. Rico and I would like to thank you for taking this time to do the interview with us by using the magic of Zoom technology.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we have a lot to talk about, Joey. So let's get twisting. So are you ready?
Okay, let's start it like this. Well, he got a new dance and it go like this. Yeah, this is the real Joey D, or what's left of him anyway.
Well, we'll take that.
We'll take that, man.
Now, the first question, do you still have the moves to do the peppermint twist?
Do I have the moves?
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. You know what it is? I never stopped doing it. So for 60 years, I've been doing it. And I think when you stop, that's when you drop.
Oh,
so that didn't happen to me.
No.
And of course, I don't gyrate as wildly as I used to, but I move pretty well.
Okay. Well, keep moving, Joey.
You, like a shark, you stop moving, it's over.
Now, tell us the story behind this song, The Peppermint Twist.
Well, it came about almost as a fluke. We're working as a house band in the Peppermint Lounge, which is in the heart of the theater district in New York City, Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
If you're from New York or East Coast, you know that.
Yes, yes.
And one rainy night, one dark and rainy night, as they say, Merle Oberon came in with Charlie Knickerbocker. And I was doing Hank Ballard's version of the twist in my show. And the kids were on the dance floor, because I say kids because the age of drinking back in 1960, 61, 62 was 18 years old in New York City.
Oh, okay.
So there were high school kids there, really. And they were doing the twist, and Merle Oberon thought it'd be a hoot to get up and dance with the kids. And so she did. And she had a wonderful time. And Charlie Knickerbocker wrote about it in his column in the Daily News the next day.
Oh, wow.
And it just morphed into a phenomenon that it became. It was just marvelous. The timing was perfect. I
Yes,
happened to be at the right place at the right time, doing the
that-
right thing.
that's what I was going to say too. Right place at right time. And thank you, Merle.
Yeah, and thank you, Merle Oberon
That's right.
and Charlie Knickerbocker. Made my whole career, my whole life.
That's wonderful. Well,
I
I'm
got
glad,
money to leave my grandkids.
and they appreciate
The ones I like anyway.
How about Jacob? How about Jacob? Is he included in that?
that.
Oh, he's also my drummer.
Oh,
Oh, cool.
okay.
Yeah, it's a family affair. I got one grandson plays guitar, Jacob plays drums, my son plays saxophone and sings, and my daughter sings. So
Really?
I got a cheap payroll.
Cheap pair.
Music's in the blood in your family.
Yeah, pretty much so.
So, Joey, how did you come up with the name the Starlighters?
That's a good one, and not many people pose that question to me. I am a doo-wop era guy,
Mhm.
so 50s and 60s.
Right.
And in the 50s, I was playing at a place called St. Anthony's CYO Dance, which I played every Friday night for about a year. And it was just called Joey D's band.
Right.
And I said, you know what? I have to make this a little more classy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big fan of the Moonglows
Oh,
and the
yes.
harp tones
Oh,
Right.
and all of the doo-wop groups, Flamingos, of course, Johnny Maestro and the Crest and Larry Chance and the Earls. Everybody had a name,
Right.
Jay
Right.
Siegel and the Tokens. So I said, I need to adopt a name. So I looked up during one of my breaks. It was probably around 9 p.m. on a starlit evening, and I looked up and I said, Moon Glows, which is pretty much one of my favorites. And I
Yes.
said, what about stars? Star lighter. And it just evolved into Starlighters. And I
Yeah.
spell it incorrectly, but that's who I wanted it.
Yes.
And I spell it Liters.
Yes.
And that's how Joey D and the Starlighters. And I had a lot of chutzpah, as they say in Italian, because I just played saxophone and sang background. I called it Joey D and the Starlighters, and took a lot of nerve to do that because I wasn't the lead singer until the Peppermint Twist came along when I wrote it.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's a story we can get into later if you like.
Sure.
But that's how we got the name Joey D and the Starlighters. Passaic, St. Anthony CYO dance, and a real starlit evening.
Oh, nothing better than that. And you had good inspiration. The moon glows. Perfect. Starlighters.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great story, Joey. Now, do you remember the first paying gig where you were asked to perform?
My first payment
Paying
for,
gig.
for
Yes.
Paying gig.
entertaining, I
Yes.
I certainly do. I'll never forget. It's like your first love, when you're a musician. Anyway,
Yes.
I played at the YWCA, Young Women's Christian Association. My
Uh-huh.
first dance, and we got $5 a piece. There were 5 of us, $25 for, and I said, I'm getting paid to do something that I like doing.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
what I want to do the rest of my life.
That's right.
Although I did have another love, and I did go to college for 2 years, I
Mhm.
wanted to be a history and English teacher. So I
Oh,
went 2 years to Patterson State College in Wayne, New Jersey.
Okay.
And then I took a hiatus for 1 year. I said, I'm going to take a year off
uh-huh.
and just try music and see if I can get lucky with it. And during that 1 year hiatus, I ended up at the Peppermint Lounge and I ended up recording the Peppermint Twist. And the
Oh,
rest, as they say, is you know what.
yeah. Well, you followed the right path, it looks like, Joey.
Well, I have some regret in not completing my college education and getting my BA or BS.
Mhm.
And I do miss that part of it. But I did study a lot after that. I read the dictionary. I like words. I like what words can do.
Oh,
Yes.
And I met a lot of very interesting people working at the Peppermint Lounge and all the other venues that I worked at.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, who are some of the original members, and do any of them still perform today?
The original members of the Starlighters?
Yes.
Well, first we started out with a trio.
Mhm.
Probably when I was in 8th grade, I played harmonica, and I had Tony Shudo as my drummer, and John Yannick was my guitar player, and we were called the Thunder Trio, and that's exactly what we sounded like. But you have to remember, we played for free, but we did a lot of charitable things like for the Salvation Army and the
Yes.
YMCA, YWCA, YMHA,
Yes.
all places like that, places that would have us really,
Right.
because we were not very good.
Well.
And then we morphed into, I went to the clarinet and then the saxophone. And then we became New Jersey's hottest band, I would say in 1956, 7. And we got to do the Ted Mack show. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've
That
heard
was
the
our
name.
first TV show. My sister Mary and her husband, who was my godfather Sam, put in an application to the Ted Mack show, unbeknownst to me. And 2 weeks later, he got an approval, and we went in an audition, and we got to do the Ted Mack show. So it was really cool. And
That-
and that group was 5 of us,
oh,
and that's when I started playing the alto saxophone.
well, that really got your career going, being on the Ted Mack show, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was great. But the only thing is, I hate 6-year-old kids because of that show. Because we came in second to a kid who sang Danny Boy, and he won.
Oh,
Yeah, Danny boy.
okay. Well, you recovered from that.
So I know, like W.C. Field said, stay away from kids when you're doing contests.
You related to W.C. Fields. Okay.
Yeah, I love W.C. and the Marx Brothers. I uh, I enjoy comedy a lot, quite a bit.
Oh, we need comedy, don't we? It means
Yeah,
so much. Yes.
and I use some of it in my show. And then I was hanging out with Lenny Bruce. So do I have to tell
Oh,
you any more?
yeah.
Lenny Bruce and I double dated. It's in the book that I wrote called
Okay.
The Peppermint Twist Chronicles, written by Joey D and assisted by Kevin Morris, who was my ghostwriter. I'll tell you a story about that later, which is interesting as
Okay.
well.
I'm
Okay.
reading it.
Yes. Well, we're going to talk more about the book later, and I'll look for that little story you
Yeah,
just.
we can talk about some of the people that went through my group, which is an amazing feat in itself.
I think I
I
had.
mean, I got to work
that.
with some of the greatest names in show business.
Okay. I think that's some of our questions for you, in fact.
Okay, whenever you're ready,
All
if
right.
we want to do it as the way you have it written, we can do it that way, or we can just ad lib, and I find that to be the best way.
That's good.
You're good that
Because
way.
my mind is scattered.
No, that's okay.
That's-
Well, we wanted to ask you if there were any other groups that were influential in your career growing up. Now, you mentioned the Moonglows and Harp Tones, so you might have covered
Yeah,
that.
all the doo-wop, but I
All the
also
doo-wop.
love Frank Sinatra,
Oh,
and
yes.
I loved Ray Charles, B.B.
Oh.
King. I had a great station when I was living in Passaic, New Jersey, coming out of Newark that I listened to, WNJR, and
Mhm.
they played all R&B music, and that's where I got addicted. And I said, this is you want to hear Little Richard sing Tutti Frutti, or do you want to hear Pat Boone sing it? And I said to myself, you know what? I think I'd rather hear Little Richard sing it.
We see your point,
Yeah.
Joey, definitely.
And I like Pat Boone, don't get me wrong. But just not my kind of music.
No, we agree with you wholeheartedly. We love rhythm and blues, anything with rhythm
And
and
while I
blues.
was listening to that, WNGR, they'd advertise different shows. They had a show in the 50s in Newark, New Jersey, Ray Charles versus B.B. King, to find out who the real king of rock and roll was.
Oh.
So I went to that show.
Oh, yeah.
I went there, man. Oh,
Oh,
if I wasn't convinced about my love of R&B music before that night, I certainly was after that night.
Well, they were great artists, no question there.
Undoubtedly, two Hall of Famers,
Absolutely.
deservedly so.
So tell us about the Peppermint Lounge, Joey. How did you get the gig there? I think you touched on that a little bit.
I was working at a club in New Jersey called Oliveri's, and we always had a big crowd.
Mhm.
The band was that good, and I had some sense of business acumen where the band was great, but I
Mhm.
needed great vocalists. So what I did was I took one vocalist, Rogers Freeman, from a doo-wop group because they didn't have any music, and
Right.
I took David Brigatti from his group, the High Fives, and I took the two best singers I felt in New Jersey, uh, except for Frank Sinatra, maybe. And I added them to the group. So now I got the best singers and the best band, and we were the hottest group around. And we had a New York City agent, Don Davis, come because he saw all these cars in the parking lot. He said, "What? Something must be going on."
Right.
He came in, driving in from Pennsylvania, some gigs there, and he came and he heard the band. And during my break, he said, "How'd you like to work in New York City?" And I said, "What?" Because that was it. That was my dream. That was my
Of
goal.
course. Of
I knew
course.
if I were going to make it, it had to be in the Big Apple.
That's
Big
right.
Apple.
So he got me a 3-day gig as an interim fill-in band for the house band who's taken a hiatus, a respite. So a Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday in October of 1960 is when we had our baptism in the Peppermint Lounge,
Oh.
and it was a real dump. And it held maybe 200 people, and it
Yeah.
was in Hell's Kitchen, West 45th Street, between 6th and 7th Avenue. And man, did I get an education here, better than I could have gotten in Harvard.
Well, that's good. That what was the agent's name from Pennsylvania?
Don Davis,
Don Davis.
and he
Okay.
became my manager.
Oh, he became your manager.
Yes, and he
Oh,
booked us in the Peppermint Lounge, and we were there that night when Merle happened to come in, and that was it.
the rest, like you said, the
You know,
rest is
some things
history.
are serendipitous. They just happen to have it. They have to happen on their own. You
Mhm.
can't make this stuff happen.
Yeah.
That club became the #1 mecca of nightclubs in the world without 10 cents advertising.
Oh,
They didn't pay for a dime of advertising. It
Just-
just evolved into what it became.
just word
And,
of mouth.
well,
and that-
here's how it happened. Any given night, Judy Garland was there. The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland. I mean, and I'm a big movie buff, so
Yes.
I was really impressed. Nat King Cole,
Oh,
John Wayne, the Beatles. I'll tell you a story about that a little later. Rolling Stones, Marilyn Monroe, Ava Gardner. How do you like to be on stage and you're from a blue collar family in New Jersey
Yeah.
who never met anybody except the bill collectors? And I'm saying, these are my heroes, my idols. Jackie Kennedy, Ted Kennedy. I mean, it's just incredible, the people that frequented the Peppermint Lounge. And I can go on ad infinitum if you ask me for a list of who came to anybody who was anybody in the early 1961, 2, 3 came to the Peppermint Lounge. Everybody.
well, that must have been pretty heady stuff for you, but you knew if you could make it to New York, something good was going to happen.
Exactly. I knew I had to make it to the city.
That's right. You did it.
The city.
And so what, regarding the Peppermint Lounge, what were some of the acts that really stood out in your mind?
That I was impressed with?
Yeah, that you were
Well,
impressed.
while I'm at the Peppermint Lounge, down in the village at the Cafe Wa is Bob Dylan.
Oh, Bob Dylan.
2 blocks away from me was the Metropole, Gene Krupa, and Dino Danelli, the drummer from the Young Rascals. I mean, New York was the mecca, and 52nd Street was all jazz guys. You know, I'm not a jazz guy; I'm an R&B guy.
Uh-huh.
But my grandson doesn't like that, Jacob, because he loves jazz.
Yes.
But I did like some jazz, and I'll tell you a jazz story for all the musicologists that are out there and musicians. One night at the Peppermint Lounge, King Curtis and Miles Davis come in
Oh, man.
after doing a record session.
The biggies.
They
Yeah.
get up on stage and jammed with my band, the Starlighters.
Oh, wow.
What do you think that was like? And unfortunately, no iPhones back then, so I couldn't take any pictures of stuff.
Right.
But man, oh man, I'm playing the saxophone with Miles Davis and King Curtis.
I know.
Are you kidding me? I don't tell people that, but it's in the book that I wrote, and it's factual, and everything in the book is factual. Most of the stories are fun and a wonderful experiences, but there's some sad parts too, some pathos.
Yeah. But all in all, it
But
sounds,
the acts, man, and then the Ronettes came in one night,
Oh, man.
and they were so great. I hired them. They were part of my review, Joey D and the Starlighters.
yes,
The Ronettes, Hall of Famers.
that's right.
Those other,
Yeah, we love the Ronettes. Well, so far, what an interesting life you've had. Now, tell us a story about you, the Starlighters, or the Peppermint Lounge that you can share with us today, either funny or serious, something that you haven't already shared with us.
It's not on social media.
Well, just having Lenny Bruce in the audience and sitting with him in between the breaks. I mean, he was way ahead of his time, way ahead of his time. A great comedian. He had one of the quickest wits and I met Don Rickles and other people too, but Lenny Bruce was, I got to work with Don Rickles in LA.
Oh,
Yeah, we worked 3 weeks together, and it's in the book, man. There's some really funny stories in there.
well, believe me, I'm going to read this book.
You gotta.
So you were
It's
sitting.
really interesting.
Interesting. So you were sitting with Lenny Bruce during the breaks, and was he telling jokes the whole time and cracking you up?
Everything he said was funny, but he had a different perspective than anybody else. Like Jackie Mason is one of my favorite comedians. They saw things differently. But man, oh man, how I double dated with with Lenny Bruce with two showgirls from Broadway. They were in a play called Subways Are for Sleeping. It never made it, but the girls did.
Had a great title.
They came in a Peppermint Lounge, and I'll tell you what, man, we had a great time. Yeah, that is a great title. You're right.
Well,
So did we have fun in the Peppermint Lounge? You betcha.
we could tell. Now, Joey D and the Starlighters Square. Tell us about that honor.
I come from Passaic, New Jersey.
Yes.
And Mark Auerbach is the historian, and he thought it'd be a great idea. I think it's 11 years now to name the street I grew up on after Joey D and the Starlighters. And this is what it looks like.
Oh, there it is.
This is a duplicate.
Oh, I'm glad you held that up.
Joey D and the Starlighters Square, but we're not square. Far from it. But anyway, they gave us that honor, and I went to high school with the Shirelles, Rock and Roll's Hall of Fame.
Yes.
They came, they sang to honor me. And here's what the city of Passaic did. What a great town it is. A town of 56,000 people, 8 miles from the Lincoln Tunnel. So that's how I had that proximity to New York. They named the high school auditorium after the Shirelles.
Oh, okay.
They named the middle school, Lincoln Middle School Auditorium, after Joey D and the Starlighters. I mean, how cool is that?
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
And the Shirelles also have a street named after them. And they got me my first record contract with Scepter Records. The Shirelles.
The Shirelles did. Okay.
I love them.
Wow. We appreciate our friends, don't we?
Well, they're more than friends.
More than friends. Okay.
But my proudest achievement in my musical career is having the first integrated band / doo-wop group with a #1 Billboard hit.
Oh,
That's my greatest accomplishment.
well, quite an accomplishment, Joey.
And that's in the book. You got to see. And we went through some trials and tribulations. When I say there were some sad times, there were.
Oh, yeah. There always is. It's the good and the bad, right? Yeah.
Of course.
Now, I think you alluded to it. Joe Pesci played guitar with the group for a time in the 60s. Share that story with us, please.
It's amazing. Well, Pesci used to come into the Peppermint Lounge and he brought in this kid, Larry Ranieri. Pesci was from Belleville and Larry was from Newark. So they commuted into the city and I needed another singer. So Larry was in a group called the Cameos.
Mhm.
So I auditioned him and hired him. So Pesci used to come in every night and he loved the group. And he heard we were doing a movie for Paramount called Hey, Let's Twist. He said, "Do you think you can get me, uh, an extra job in the movie?" And I said, "I'll talk to the director, Hal Hackett." Well, anyway, whatever. I said, "I'll talk to him." He said, "Can the kid twist?" I said, "Yeah, he's terrific." And he said, "Bring him along and we'll find a spot for him." So during the movie, you can see where he actually mugs up to the camera because that was Pesci, man. He knew he was going to be somebody sometime, and he certainly won an Academy Award. And he was another guitar player of mine. So I had two guitar players in my band. I put together a group called the Young Rascals, Hall of Famers.
Oh, sure.
Gene Cornish, Felix Cavalieri, Eddie Brigatti. Gene Cornish was a guitar player. So now I got two members in Rock and Roll's Hall of Fame, Hendrix and Cornish, and one won an Academy Award, Pesci. So that's a pretty hard act to follow.
Well, I think you might have helped Joe Pesci in his movie career. It's a
Is that
possibility.
incredible? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the first movie he ever appeared in.
Great story.
Yeah, it is. And it's all in the book, man. That's why when I read the book, I said, all of this couldn't happen to one person. But you know what? It did. And
All
guess
true.
what? It was me.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
And
you.
and 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 here's how the Beatles came to the Peppermint Lounge. 1963, I'm working in Europe. I'm doing a 10-country tour. So I get to Hamburg, Germany, the Star Club, where everybody worked. Little Richard, Bat Domino, Bill Haley, Joey D and the Starlighters, and all the English groups. And
Oh.
everybody's touting this one group. And I'm saying,
Mhm.
I wish I could be here the same time they were there. Unfortunately, we never connected at the same time because I worked there 3 different times. And I get a gig in Stockholm, Sweden.
Mhm.
One of those groups happens to be the Beatles.
Ah.
My opening act. They were so great. I threw a party for them that night at the Hotel Forest in Stockholm. And they were so impressed that I thought so much of them. They said, "We're coming to the States in a couple of months." This is October 1963. They came to the States a couple of months later. And I talked to George, and he said, "When we come to the States, we're coming to the Peppermint Lounge." And they all 4 of them came. With Murray Decay, who was the fifth Beatle, big DJ at the time. So that was my experience with the Beatles, and had wonderful senses of humor. So we clicked right away. They had that dry English humor, and
Yeah.
I had my wise ass Jersey humor. So they liked mine, and I liked theirs. So it was cool.
It was a good balance.
Yeah, good balance.
Good balance.
Definitely. Good
Perfect.
balance.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, you have some great stories,
Right.
Joey. Just fabulous.
I couldn't ask for a better musical career or a life. They gave me when I say they, I mean my fans and the people that bought my records and came to my concerts gave me such a great opportunity. The last 11 years, I wrote this book. It took me 11 years to get it to where I felt it was very honest, and there's some stories there I'm not very proud of, but most of it I am.
Yeah, we all have regrets, but there was a lot of good that was accomplished. So
Yeah, but 99% of it is positive and good
that's
and interesting and funny. And the people that I was with, you can't. I mean, yeah, I danced with Judy Garland. I danced with Shirley MacLaine, Shelley Winters. I mean, how cool is that?
fun
That
time
in itself is a career.
being able to boast about that. Okay.
Yeah. And you know what? I have a low key life down here in Florida. Most of my neighbors don't even know who I am. And the few that do, I guess they watch Facebook or whatever.
Yes.
I have a Facebook thing, but I don't know too much about it. And I'm a dinosaur when it comes to uh, technology and iPhones. So I have a daughter-in-law, Renee DiNicola, who does all the work for me, and my grandkids, they do all the technical stuff for me.
Oh.
And you know what? I don't want to learn about all that stuff.
No.
I did my thing. When I do my concerts, I say, my name's Joey Dean. If you want to get a hold of me, don't text me, don't tweet me, don't Facebook me, don't fax me. Call me on the telephone like a person.
Yeah.
And I don't hold true to that.
Yes.
And I really mean that. I'd rather talk to somebody. Don't text me. Call me on the phone. I want to hear you.
Yes.
I guess that's old school. Like I said, a dinosaur.
Well, we relate to old school too. We use the technology, but we understand old school. Yes.
I understand I have to have it in my life, and I do.
Right.
And I have, joeyd.com's my website, and joeyd@joeyd is my email. So, I mean, it couldn't be easier than that. That's the only reason why I can get on it.
Yes. Well, we do the same. We call on the kids for the latest help with the latest technology.
Exactly.
We
Now they're
always
talking
say that.
about TikTok and Instagram. I said, listen, I don't want to know about it. You do it, okay? You do it for me. And they do.
Good things. Now, you perform with so many great groups over the years. Do you have any favorites? And if you do, why?
There were certain groups when the English invasion occurred in 1964.
Yes.
We all were put out of work. When I say we all my peers,
Yeah.
mostly, except for Motown.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The Bee Gees, and my very dear friends, the Four Seasons, Frankie Valli, and I grew up with. We were all Jersey
Sure.
guys.
Yes.
And I used to go watch them when they were the Four Lovers. Frankie Valli, Nicky Machoch on bass, Tommy DeVito on guitar, and Bob Gaudio, the keyboard and songwriter. I mean, they had it all.
Yes.
And we worked many, many times together. They just marvelous. Well, the state of New Jersey, just remarkable who came from there musically.
Oh, yeah.
Frank Sinatra to Connie. I want to ask you a question, and you probably have nothing to do with it, but why isn't Connie Francis in the Hall of Fame? Does that make sense to you?
Well, I hadn't thought about it, so I guess we'll have to think about that.
Well, think about it, because she's a Jersey girl and I'm a Jersey
Is
guy,
she?
and I'm
Oh,
sticking
okay.
up for her.
Hey,
And she's
Joey.
one of my favorites.
Hey, Joey.
Yes.
I'll just add a little bit to that. Is that I talk to my friends about that too, because there's so many other great, singers, like Johnny Maestro, and I mean, there's
Don't even get me started with
Okay.
I
that.
know.
We won't get you started.
And Bobby Rydell and Frankie Avalon. Come on.
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, over the years, back in the day, when they had guys, our age, which of course were younger back then, we knew all these groups. Now there's a whole new crop in that, and
Yeah.
they're young.
And I understand that
they're
music
younger guys.
evolved, but why weren't they put in the first time? That's my point. They should have been put in when they first put the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah.
Cleveland, Ohio, folks, in case you don't know. That's where it is.
Where
But
it
you
is.
know what? I'm in the Hall of Fame because there's a plaque there for the Young Rascals, and they paid homage to me and said three of us were in Joey D and the Starlighters. So
Oh,
technically, I am in the Hall of Fame, but in reality, I'm not,
Well, you're gonna be
and
an
that's
awful.
okay. That's not one of my goals. If it happens, if wherever it happened, fine. What my goal is right now is to leave a legacy for my children and my grandchildren, and that is the book that I wrote,
yeah.
Peppermint Twist Chronicles, because it tells all about their grandfather and their father, good
Hmm.
and bad.
That's a great
And like
book.
you say, good things happen and bad things happen.
Okay, well, you're leaving a
I'm very
legacy.
proud of most of it.
That's good to know, Joey. Another question for you. And you had mentioned a few of these things. At one time, the Ronettes were in your group, three of the original Rascals were Starlighters, and you hired Jimi Hendrix as a guitarist. Is there anything in particular you wanted to comment on or remember about those entertainers?
Well, all of them, putting
Yeah.
the Rascals together from the different groups, because I had a nightclub in 1965 in New York City called Joey D Starlighter. I was New York's youngest nightclub owner.
You are.
Another thing that you tell people, so what? Who cares? So what? But anyway, having those guys together, and then they went out on their own,
Right.
and the Ronettes went out and Be My Baby. Um,
Uh-huh.
Here's the kind of guy I'm the type of guy. Well, anyway, the kind of guy I am is I relish the successes that they all had. They were all in the Hall of Fame. No jealousy or animosity. We all got along great. We're still friends today, and they all, you know, considered that I was a stepping stone to get them to where they got, and that's wonderful. That's what I was there for.
Yeah.
I had my own band. I did what I did, and they did what they did. Now Hendrix is another story. I'm looking for a guitar player, and my drummer Jimmy Mays says there's a dude just got off the road with Little Richard and the Isley Brothers. I said, man, he must be great. So I said, bring him to my house in New Jersey, and I'll audition him. So my nephew Johnny drives a car over with Jimmy, picks him up at this raggedy hotel he was at. I mean, roach infested. It was a dump. And they brought him to my house in Lodi, New Jersey. And he didn't even have a guitar case. So he
Oh,
takes his guitar out of the bag and he says, what do you want to hear? And I said, play what you like. So he starts playing Curtis Mayfield.
Ooh.
I'm an
oh,
RBI. I'm RBI, R&B guy. I wish I were an RBI guy. But anyway, he started playing Curtis Mayfield. I said, you need play no more. I said, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. You're in.
wow.
So there's some stories about it that are in a book. I can't tell you right now because
No, it's,
they're X-rated, some of it. But we had great times together. He had a wonderful sense of humor for those that didn't know him, and of course, he was a chick magnet.
yeah.
So, oh man, we had times that I can't tell you about. But he was a great guy, and we'd have so much fun on stage. He became so great. Here's what I did. I let him do the first 10 minutes before the band went out. He went out and just played solo on my shows. So I had a pretty good ear. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
God blessed me with a wonderful musical ear. And then after he played his thing, he was a tough act to follow. So we came out and we did okay.
So you had to perform even harder. He said, he's so great.
Exactly. He made us always bring our A game,
A
which
game.
was great. I liked the challenge. And
Yeah.
I always told my band two things. Number one, you the audience sees you before they hear you. So
Mhm.
we got to dress better than everybody else.
Right.
Secondly, whether there are 5 people in the audience or 5,000, you play your best. And we did that. And that's how we started at the Peppermint Lounge because right down the street was a place called the Wagon Wheel that was inundated with people. They'd have 500 people there a night. We'd have 5. But we played our best every night. And eventually,
Where you got out?
the Wagon Wheel got the overflow from the Peppermint. In the beginning, it was just the opposite.
So you played
And
your
that was
heart.
my mantra: look good and play good
Yeah.
and sing great. I had the greatest singers, so I had no problem. The singers were so great. While West Side Story was on Broadway while I was at the Peppermint. So who comes to the Peppermint Lounge to hear my rehearsals? Johnny Mathis.
Oh,
Oh, man.
Johnny Mathis. And David Brigatti singing some of his songs in our show.
oh,
And he was very impressed. But he went to West Side Story. He must have seen it 1,000 times. He'd do the matinees and the evenings when he wasn't playing. And he did that whole album, Marie, and all those great songs.
Oh, yeah.
But Johnny Mathis came to our rehearsals, man.
oh.
I can't tell you anymore because you won't believe it.
I know the people you've met. It's incredible.
It's in the
Yeah,
book.
it is. It
It's
really
in, and
is.
it's in the book.
It's in the book.
It's in the book.
In fact, let's talk about your new book, Peppermint Twist Chronicles. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of it right here in front of me, so let me hold it up for the audience.
Okay. Thank you so much. And my son Ronnie designed that.
Oh, good design.
Yes, good
I like it.
design.
And the pictures in the background you got to look at. They're quite faint, but
Yes,
those are my band members and the evolving of the group. But they're very, very special to me. And he said he wanted to make it like he didn't want a regular book cover. He wanted it to be rock and roll, and that's rock and roll.
That's rock and
absolutely.
roll,
And
man.
there's you jumping up really, really high.
Is that incredible? Well, actually, if you look behind me, there's a Leslie speaker from the organ. I
Yeah.
was jumping off that speaker.
Oh, I see.
Back then, I could jump almost that high from the ground. I was pretty agile. I
Oh,
can't do it anymore, but back
yeah,
then I did.
don't try that now.
I can, but it's about 2 inches.
2 inch, okay. That's
You
good.
know, I give it the old college try, but
Oh, college try.
I don't accomplish that height that I did. I could jump probably 1.5 feet, maybe almost 2 feet.
Well, that's
Well,
good
that's good.
aerobics, you know.
That's
I
that-
had, yeah, exactly. And that's how I could still do the twist.
Well, keep
Boys
moving.
and girls, twisting is good for you.
Oh, yeah, we got to keep moving. Joey, answer me this. Since you're not a writer, how did this come about for you to write this book?
That's a unique question. I am a writer. I'm a music writer, but
Oh,
I'm not a book writer.
Right.
Okay.
okay.
So I'm in the midst of my book for the last 10 years, nine and a half years, and I still haven't completed it. And I'm not happy with it. So I'm at the Tampa airport waiting for a flight to gig in Cleveland. So who's on at the Tampa airport? Gary Puckett, who lives in Clearwater. We're
Oh.
going on the same flight to Cleveland. So he says to me, Joey, you done with your book? Because everybody knows I've been writing a book forever. And I said, Gary, I'm just not a book writer, man. He said, you know what? I have a friend that lives in Utah. I said, Utah? He said, yeah, Utah. But he's a great writer. And his name is Kevin Morris. He says, what about if I give you his number and you call him and see if you guys can click? I called him on the phone. We have nothing in common. He's originally from Mississippi, and he said, you know what? I think I like you. And I said, you know what? I think I like you too. He said, let's try writing this book. Maybe you can help me be my ghostwriter, co-writer, whatever. And he said, let's do a trial, a test run. So he called me up on the phone. He's in Utah. I'm in Florida in my house. And he's taping every story that I'm giving him. And after a year and a half of giving him different stories, we did over 600 pages. He only picked out 280. He says, I think we got a book. And after he wrote it, and I looked at it, I said, man, you're fantastic. This book is fabulous. Because I hate reading. I hated it in school. I hate it now. I can read a magazine article, something brief, terse, short, fine. Nothing 200 pages. But I read this book, and I lived this book. And I just said, this is exactly how I would have written it had I been a writer. So I was very pleased. And Kevin Morris is his name, and he still lives in Utah, and I still live in Florida, and I never met him. But he's coming to the first book signing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's coming because I thought he earned that. He earned that right to be there, sitting at the table with me for the first one. And he said, you know what? I'm going to fly there with my wife, and they're coming.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you and Kevin
And that's the story, Jerry.
That's the story. Yeah, you found each other, and it worked, So great. Well, we're looking forward to reading this book, definitely.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. Yeah.
Right.
So Joey, why don't you give us a gem or two from the book that you can share with our audience out in VCB land, and even maybe the time you jumped so high on stage, you hit your head on an overhead beam and knocked yourself out.
Incredible.
You want to share a little of that story or something else?
Well, yeah, I could tell you that. I always jumped off the Leslie during Shout. Shout was my closing number ever since I went to the Peppermint Lounge and I heard the Isley Brothers. And in my opinion, they did the best version of Shout ever, even though they never had a top 10 and I did. Their version is the definitive version. So I jump off to Leslie, like you'll see on the cover of the book when you buy it at Amazon. I did this for a week. I was at this club for a week. So I should have known the parameters I was in.
Yes.
And I missed seeing one beam. So I jumped up and I hit my head so hard, I fell flat on my back and was unconscious for maybe a minute or two. And they had the ambulance come in, and I must have hit the yes button when I hit that beam, because they said, you okay? Yes. You want to sing anymore? Yes. You want to go to the hospital? Yes. You don't want to go to the hospital? Yes. No matter what they asked.
Kept repeating
I
yes.
said, yeah. It was yes. So about 30 minutes later, I didn't lose my senses. I came to them.
Okay. All right.
That's a line from Christmas Carol.
Okay.
And that's another one of my favorites.
I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, Scrooge. Yeah, Christmas Carol. I didn't lose my senses. I've come to them.
Okay. All right. Well, glad you recovered. No problem with
Well,
that.
some people don't think I did, but that's okay. They're mostly in my family.
Well, you sound good to us. So that.
But I'll tell you what. I've been so blessed. I have 7 children and 13 grandchildren.
Oh wow!
13.
We didn't know you had 7 children. Wow.
5 boys and 2 girls. 5 of them are down here, gratefully.
Oh.
One lives in Middletown, New York. One boy, Jason, and my oldest son lives in Hawthorne, New Jersey, Joey. But and I have 7 great grandchildren.
Wow.
I mean, I could start my own country.
Yeah, country. Right?
But that's Roman Catholic, and Italian.
Yeah.
I guess.
You had a few.
Whatever.
Kids.
That's how it is, and I love every one of them.
Well, that's the main.
Don't tell them I said that.
Oh, okay. Now, just a few more questions, Joey.
Okay.
Of all your accomplishments, awards, and accolades, is there any that stand out to you that you're most proud of, besides the Vinyl City Broadcasting Award that you're about to receive, of course?
Which is great. Yeah, that's so wonderful. And well, the awards I got in my hometown of Passaic are very special to me, and heartfelt.
Yes.
But the award that's right over my shoulder there
I see it. Yes.
is my record I got from Roulette Records, the gold record of Peppermint Twist, that was given to me by my dear friend Dick Clark on American Bandstand. So
Oh,
I would say that's one of the highlights of my career.
that does sound like a highlight. Absolutely.
Yeah, Dick Clark to present it to you when everybody watched Bandstand back in my day.
Of course we
Yeah,
did. Yes.
you had to watch it. But when I got it in Philadelphia when it was still in Philly.
Okay, that's where the show was produced.
That's where it emanated from. Yeah,
Emanated
when Dick
from.
Clark started.
Great history, Joey.
Well,
So another
and there's
question.
more, but it's all in the book. Read the book.
Yeah, I'm going to read the book. It's going to take me a while, but I'm going to read it.
I'm halfway through, Joey. I'm halfway
Yeah,
through.
Rico's halfway through. Now, Joey, when you walk out on stage like you've been doing for the last 60 plus years, what kind of emotions are you feeling looking out in the audience and knowing that all of these folks come out to see and hear you and the Starlighters perform?
Firstly, I'm grateful. Secondly, I have maybe 5 seconds of trepidation. But soon as I go out and the light hits me and I see my audience,
Yeah.
they're going to get the best that Joey D has to offer. And I promise myself that. And I also promise myself this: when it becomes a chore to me and I'm not enjoying what I'm doing and I'm not giving my A game, I'm done. I'll know when it's time. So right now, I'm still having a great time.
Well, the love of the music is still keeping you going. So
The love and the love of the audience
and the love of the
people
audience.
paying hard earned money to come and see Joey D and the Starlighters. I take that seriously,
Yeah.
personally.
And people
And I'm going to give them their money's worth. And as you see, I have a little comedic side to me, and I have some jokes that I like to tell,
that helps, doesn't
and
it?
it's fun.
Yeah,
And it's fun. And you can see when I'm on stage, you can tell, like when on TV or on a television show, on a TV show, the real people from the fake people. You can't fool the audience.
Right.
And when I'm on stage, you can tell I'm having a hell of a time. I'm having a great time up there.
So you're having
I'm in
fun.
constant motion.
Constant motion. And you're having fun. The audience is having fun. It's a great
Hopefully,
experience.
yeah.
Well, people can tell when your heart is in it. So
Yeah. And I'm doing something that's quite unique. And you're going to be the first to hear about this. I'm doing my first book signing. Guess where? Not in a major bookstore, which most people do. I'm doing it in an oldies record store.
Oh, how cool is that?
Clearwater record shop. And I go in there all the time because the owner, Casey, is a good friend of mine. And I'm doing it on the 25th of this month on a Saturday from 2 to 5. And the place is going to be, well, these are all my people. And these are my records, the vinyl.
Yes.
That's where I came from. I emanated from that. I was my genesis. But I'm looking for, it's going to be a great event. We're going to film it too.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that, Joey.
Yeah, it's going to be special.
Yeah.
So that's something I wanted to do. I wanted to be rock and roll, and that's what I've been all my life. Why change now?
We agree, and we love going to record stores and buying vinyl, and yeah, that's still with us also.
Exactly.
Yes.
Marie, I want to tell you, you're a delight to speak with, even though I can't hear you as well as I'd like to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not your fault.
Yes.
I have a left ear puncture from rock and roll drummers being behind me for 60 years.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, I still, I'm able to perform and still hear well.
Yes, you've been hearing my questions pretty well, so we're all grateful for that. So, Joey, is there anything else that you would like to share with our VCB audience before we close out the interview?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for loving the music, and our generation of rock and roll is still here, believe it or not,
Yes.
and it's unique to itself. It came along at the right time, right after World War II, and we needed some. I love the big band music. That's what I
Mhm.
started with
Sure.
because I have older sisters. I come from a family of 10. I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers, so I have 9 siblings, and they taught me good music, and I had a God-given ear, so music was a natural to me. It just came naturally. I just wish I had Johnny Maestro or Frank Sinatra's voice. I got to work a little harder.
Well, we appreciate all you rock and roll guys, and it's music that made us happy. You know,
It still makes
it
sense.
still makes us happy. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
and music is involved with so much history because as the music evolved, the history evolved.
Right. So we're glad you wrote the book to add to that history, you know, the rock and
Yeah.
roll history.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for this enlightening interview. And before we go, we have 2 parting gifts for you and your lovely wife, Joan. One is a Billboard comp cover, and the other is our Vinyl City Broadcasting Hall of Fame Award. So I'm going to have Rico post them on the screen so that you and our VCB audience can see them both. So just give him a moment, please, while he posts.
Oh, that's so cool.
Okay, Joey, just hang in there. I'm gonna help Marie with this.
The Billboard one?
Does this say share screen? This one
Oh,
right
yes,
here?
share screen.
My
Oh,
daughter-in-law Renee's here, so she's real good. We're gonna get a copy of this somehow. I
Yes,
got to
you
give it to
are.
my wife. After all she's gone through with me, that's the least I can do.
So we have this up on the screen, the Billboard comp. Can
Yes.
you see that? So let me read it.
I can.
Okay.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Oh, we're happy to hear that. And I'm
I
just,
love it. I love it. I look like I'm in the mafia, not in music.
well, I was going to comment on that also.
Yeah, but that's Italian.
That's
It's okay. That's Jersey.
I'm going to read the title, The Godfather of the Twist, Joey
There you
D.
go.
And like you said, the picture, the look, you play the Godfather quite nicely.
Yeah.
Why, thank you so much.
So the second that we're putting up is our Vinyl City Broadcasting Hall of Fame Award. Can you post that one up, Rico?
Sure, hold on a second, right?
That's it. Is that-
That is so great, man.
here it is.
Oh, wow. How cool is that?
Well, I was going to read that also, Joey.
How cool is that? How do you say thank you when you don't have the words to say it?
Well, you can share some Italian with us later, I guess.
That is so beautiful.
So
That-
it says Vinyl City Broadcasting Hall of Fame Award presented
Wow.
to Joey D of Joey D and the Starliters in recognition of your lifelong contributions, artistry, and preservation of rock and roll and doo-wop music. And it's granted September 18th, 2021.
You know what? I'm a very emotional guy, and I got a tear in my eye.
Oh, us Italians can get emotional, right, Joey?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right, Marie.
Well, you're so deserving of this award, and we're glad we could present it to you.
Well, it's going right next to my gold record
Oh,
Okay.
cool,
and the
man.
picture of Dick Clark, which is
We'll have
up
to
there.
ask you about that then
Okay.
in the future.
I
I'm
got-
going to send you a picture of that.
Oh,
Okay.
please do.
So we think we can put you in the category of rock and roll and doo-wop royalty.
Wow.
I'm
I'm
gonna
humbled.
go in
Thank
back
you.
to the main room.
Okay, so now we're going to go back to the main Zoom room.
There you go.
There we are.
Okay.
Okay, there we are.
We're still here.
We're still here.
Tell you.
And we're going to make arrangements after the interview to get these mailed at you, along with a set of 45 RPM earrings for your wife, Joan, that Rico designed. So can you see these okay?
Wow, how cool. How cool. Let me show you something. I give these to only people I like.
Oh, we're on the same wavelength, aren't we?
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
All right.
yes.
How
And
cool is that? Marie,
yeah,
you must be related.
we'll have to do that, our lineage and see. Oh,
Oh, wow. This is so cool.
wow, we're
So
glad.
cool you brought these out because these mean a lot to me. I
I
used
know.
these when I first
Yeah.
started playing music when I was a backup band.
Well, we don't go to any doo-wop shows without having our jewelry, the
I love
earrings,
it.
the necklace. Rick has his.
I got
Rico
mine.
has
That's so cool.
his.
That
Wow.
is so cool.
Glad you liked it. And thank you again, Joey, for doing this interview and wishing you much success with your new book.
Thank you. It's really a great read. Everybody tells me once they start it, they can't put it down. Even people that hate to read. So I'm impressed by the comments I've been getting.
Yeah, well, Rico says he
And the
agrees.
stories are great. And you know what? Every story in there is 100% honest, even the bad parts.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But most of it is funny and good.
Yeah, well, we prefer honesty.
It's a good read.
And Rico says it's a good read, and he also
Yeah,
says
that's the best compliment I
He's
could
not-
get.
he's
It's
not
a
a
good
great
read.
he's not a great reader, but he says, he's reading it and you can see, I don't know if you can see his bookmark, but he's partway through it.
Yeah, I can. Good for him.
Now I'm a reader, so, and I'm kind of a speed reader, so I will blaze through the book as soon as he's done.
Oh, Evelyn Woods, huh? Remember her?
No.
Evelyn Woods is speed reading. She taught people how to speed read.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, I'll have to look.
You obviously don't need her help.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Joey. So this was great. It was fun and so many fabulous stories that you have.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And thanks for having me on. But you know what? Thank you for the awards. And awards to a lot of acts don't mean much. They
Right.
mean everything to me.
Oh, well,
They mean I accomplished something in my life.
of course.
And
you
I could show them to my kids and stick them in their face. See, this is what I did. What did you do?
Okay, well, it's going to give them some incentive now to,
There
come
you
up with
go.
something.
Well, like they say back on the Jersey Shore, we love you, man.
Hey, thank you. Thank you
Yes,
so
yes,
much.
we do.
We love you too. Peace.
Peace.
God bless.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, Joey.
Bye, Joey. Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Okay.
I'm back here in our VCB studio. If you've been twisting and shouting during the interview, you can sit down now and we'll briefly go over some of the highlights of the interview, or remain standing if you prefer. Can you believe the rock and roll royalty and celebrities that passed through those doors at the Peppermint Lounge? From Merle Oberon, Jackie Kennedy, the Beatles, Frank Sinatra, to the average man on the street. How about playing the sax with Miles Davis? And then the time he jumped so high on stage that his head hit the overhead beam and knocked himself out. And how about Joe Pesci being a part of the original group? And so much more cool rock and roll history. Wow, takes your breath away. Remember, everyone out in VCB land, all contact information for Joey D and the Starliters will be posted on our last slide, along with how to order the book, The Peppermint Twist Chronicles. Please bookmark our VCB channel and tell all your friends about Vinyl City Broadcasting, your transit express for rock and roll trivia. The Peppermint Lounge is long gone, but the legacy of the lounge lives on, and Joey D and the Peppermint Twist are still going strong.
You know you make me wanna come on now, come on now, come on now, come on now. All right, all right, all
have one last favor I wanted to ask Joey Rico.
What was that, Marie?
I'm going to ask him, could you please show me how to do the peppermint twist